Final Fantasy 14 expansion release. Now we are back in defiance of the holiday for this July 5th podcast, and we're gonna talk about converting your tabletop games from one system to another. How are we gonna cover this in 1 hour, you might ask? That's not even possible. That could be an entire YouTube series. That's true. But we're gonna hit it fast.
Big picture.
Big picture. Okay.
Yeah.
So, full disclosure, it is the year 2024, and it is July. So it's halfway through the year 2024. We are gonna spoil Lost Mine of Phandelver in this podcast. If for some reason, if somehow in 15 years you haven't played, read, or run this adventure, or have never heard of Adventure Time, not Adventure Time. What was Adventure Time's the cartoon show. What was the one that was like a really good Adventure Zone? There we go. They did They did Lost Mines of Phandelver.
Hey.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible. I didn't know about this until 4 years ago. So.
Okay, fair enough. Well, if you don't want this spoiled for whatever reason, I guess you should leave. But it's definitely, in my opinion, worth spoiling so that you can learn about converting adventures. All right, top dog. Even after Pinkertons and scandal after scandal and completely disrespecting its fan base, number one TTRPG in the world, 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, soon to be dethroned by 2024 Dungeons & Dragons. It's like 5th edition, but better, unless you don't want it to be. As long as you're spending money, they're happy. Listen, this is what we're going to work with. So we got this 5e D&D adventure, but you're like, no, I'm mad. I want to leave. I want to do, we'll say, Pathfinder 2. Great. That's what we're going to be converting today. What if you're like, that's not what I want. I want Blades in the Dark. I want this other one. I want Dungeon World, right? You want all this other stuff. Trust me, all these mechanics is the same. It's the same across the board.
It was, it's funny. I saw because when I was starting CyberPunk, and I went on and started playing games, and I was looking at, I want to try and play a CyberPunk game. So, I went there to just look. I know I have no time to do that. But, and I went to look, and there was people who were running Curse of Strahd in CyberPunk.
Unbelievable. I mean, cool as hell, and unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay, I love converting stuff. I've been converting stuff forever. So I feel very qualified to tell you how to go about doing this. So, step 1, know the rule system you want to convert to very well. That's step 1. Know the rule system you're trying to convert to very well. All right. Next step, know the system that you're converting from pretty well. Pretty well. I would say you need to know the system you're converting to better than you know the system you're converting from. Yeah. So then next up is read the adventure you're trying to convert. From cover to cover. Like, read it.
Yep.
You read it. Know the adventure that you are converting. Don't do it like one encounter at a time. Don't even do it one chapter at a time. Read the whole thing first and be like, is this worth converting? Can I convert this? Does this seem like, is it going to be worth all the effort to do this? Like, know the adventure. God forbid you put 6 dozen hours into converting the first couple of chapters of the adventure, and then you're like, damn, this adventure kind of sucks. Like, know the adventure. Like, you have to really like an adventure to convert an adventure over. That's another thing. You need to like the adventure because it's going to be a lot of work. So if you don't like the adventure, don't bother converting it over, because there's plenty in every system. There's plenty of great adventures. You don't have to steal this adventure and bring it over here unless you really like that adventure and you would prefer to run it in this other system. Okay. In some cases, you might really like an adventure, but it's from an older edition of the game. Red Hand of Doom is from 3.5 D&D. But A lot of people want to run it in 5th edition D&D. A lot of people wish they could have run it in Pathfinder 2, which would have, in my opinion, been the perfect system to run that campaign in.
I mean, they did it with Kingmaker.
Yeah, Kingmaker was a 1st edition adventure, and then they converted it over to a video game, and then they converted it from the video game over to a 2nd edition adventure. I would love to run Iron Gods at some point. That's a 1st edition Pathfinder adventure. It would be a bit of work to transfer it over. So, pick out the adventure and what system it's coming from and what system it's going to. All right. So the next step, maybe we should be writing this down. I don't know. Let's see. Pick out adventure. Pick out destination system. Know both systems well. Read the entire adventure to vet it first. All right. Now that you've done all of that, Google to see if someone's already converted the adventure.
Yeah.
I'm dead fucking serious. Like, what? If you want to buy a car, you go down to the car dealership, and if you want to buy a used car, you go down to the used car dealership. You don't start collecting metal from the earth and like melting it down and like soldering your own circuit boards. No, you go, you see if somebody already made it, okay? Like, I know that sounds so silly, but like, this is a hot hobby right now. Especially if you're just staying in 5th edition D&D. If you're staying in 5th edition D&D and you're like, man, I heard about this adventure, Baba Yaga's broom closet from like 1st edition D&D. I really want to run it like so bad. I read it and it's really cool and all, but it looks like it's going to take me 300 hours to convert it over. Why don't you just Google? I guarantee you somebody's already converted that shit over. I guarantee it. So always put in a little bit of investigative work beforehand, because you're going to kick yourself. You're going to kick yourself if you look up from 200 hours of conversion prep and then somebody was willing to sell you the stuff for $10 or it was available for free on a message board somewhere. For the love of God, do a little bit. You've already read the whole adventure if you're following the instructions. So now look around, ask around, see if anybody has already converted the adventure. All right. So there are some of you out there, not me, obviously, not me, but there's some of you out there that are going to be like, only I can do this right. I don't care if someone else, I don't care if 3 other people have done it. Only I can do this right. Only I can do this right. Now, obviously, that's not me and Dom. That's not me and Dom, right? But some people are like that, right? Some people are like that. So anyways, if you are like that, or you couldn't find anybody that had already done the work for you, now we move on to the actual conversion stuff. So here we go. I'm going to add this. Google if anyone has already done all the work for you. I bet they have. Okay.
So
I guess for this example, you and I could real quick both try to Google Lost Mine of Phandelver Pathfinder 2e.
Yeah, why not? Let's see what happens.
All right, Lost Mine of Phandelver PF2e conversion. All right, so here's a Reddit thread. When it comes to Pathfinder 2, if you find yourself in Reddit, you are in the right place. That's where the Pathfinder kids live. They live in Reddit. So, there's another one, converting Lost Mines. What makes a better Lost Mines? Can you play this using 2e rules? 2nd edition conversion guide for alright, Pathfinder 2nd edition conversion guide, converting player characters. Oh, this is how to get them from Pathfinder 1 to Pathfinder 2. Not bad. It's actually a pretty good resource. PF1 to PF2. Yeah, might as well throw that bad boy in there. Let's see. On converting Lost Mines of Phandelver to 2e, I'm currently converting the starter set adventure for 5e to Pathfinder 2e. I'm wondering about a few things. I have done the math. Oh yeah. They're on Reddit. They're talking about math. This is definitely the right thread. I found most monsters could be replaced with their PF2 equivalent, owlbear for owlbear, goblin for goblin. Alright, and this guy says, I think you had a good understanding of the differences in DC bonuses and PF. Okay. So, this is a great example of things to kind of keep in mind when you're doing a conversion.
Yeah.
You are not obligated. Red Hand Doom was 3.5, T-Pain. It's 3.5 to,
so,
yeah.
I was going to say this is one of the first things to yeah, I think I know what you're going to say. And I was going to say it too, is you're not beholden to do one-to-one encounter replacement.
Exactly. Do not approach your conversion project thinking it has to be a direct one-to-one port. So, what do I mean? Let's take a look at The Lost Mine of Phandelver, a fantastic adventure in my humble opinion, mostly because it GPKs you in the first encounter. So that's how you know it's good. All right. So here's the broad strokes of this adventure. Gerblin arrows. Goblins ambush you on the road. They have a dungeon. There's a boss of the dungeon. He's a bugbear. He's got some wolves. Fucking classic. Good stuff. Part 2, Dungeon Town. Bandolin, there's some NPCs, there's some factions. You're supposed to learn about Forgotten Realms. You're supposed to learn about the world. And then it's like mini sandbox. You get a bunch of like quests that people need you to do. You could do them in any order, but if you go to the dragon, you're gonna die. So then it says the Spider's Web, the Tribord Trail, and then there's a Banshee's Lair where you will also get TPK. This is actually a terrible adventure. You're gonna get TPK'd there. There's the Old Well, which just has nothing to do with the story at all. It's fantastic. It's just a dude with some zombies over there. Ruins of Thunder Tree, pretty hype. There's a dragon there. It'll TPK you. Then there's Wyvern Tor. It's just got a bunch of fucking orcs. They'll probably TPK you also. And then there's Cragmaw Castle. You're probably gonna get TPK'd there also. It's another goblin dungeon. It's fucking crazy. So assuming you survive these horrible side quests, you will eventually find enough information that you will be like, oh, I'm gonna go to the final dungeon of the campaign, Wave Echo Cave. It's a great dungeon. And I'm gonna fight the final boss, a dark elf, that is to say a drow mage. And that's it. That's the adventure.
Yep.
So pretty classic, pretty vanilla Dungeons and Dragons. Which the more classic an adventure is, the easier it's going to be to convert. God forbid somebody tries to convert something like Odyssey of the Dragonlords. Am I right? Oh my God, they'd be so screwed. But we're going to talk about how to do that also. We're going to talk about how to do that.
I will say in those two cases, yes, it's very easy because you probably can like do goblin, and most likely they're going to be roughly close to the same. When you have something that's completely homebrew, like third party, where a lot of the enemies are either made up for just that adventure or not, that kind of frees you to you pick the monster you want to pick and reskin it.
Reskin to win. That's right. Reskin to win. All right, we're gonna keep it vanilla for now. And here's how it goes. First encounter, Goblin Ambush. All right. Many college theses have been written about how bad this encounter is and how many TPKs have been caused and the irreparable psychological damage it's caused to people. It's a great encounter. So these goblins are overtuned. It immediately tells players we don't know shit about encounter design or what a challenge rating means. So these goblins are dexterity-based monsters that are absolutely shredding your characters at first level. All you have to do to convert this into Pathfinder is make them fight some goblins. The end. That's it. That's all you had to do. We're done with this one. It's not that hard. They're level 1. I go into my encounter builder for Pathfinder 2, and I say I have 5 first-level heroes, and I want this to be a severe encounter so that we honor the original adventure. And then it says, oh, okay, give them 14 goblins, or whatever it tells you to do. And then now they have a severe encounter. Booyah, we're done. All right, that was great. Moving on. That's it, guys. It's not complicated. I'm not stressing it. I'm not like, ooh, there's 3 goblins over here, and there's 1 goblin over here. No.
No.
Stop it. You don't have time for that shit. Cadenex says, convert it to Tales from the Loop. Okay, sure. The kids are investigating a local street vendor, okay? He's gone missing, but they missed this guy because he sells the best fucking pretzels in town. So they follow the clues to find this guy's pretzel cart in the woods, and it's been overturned, and the guy's dog is dead, riddled with arrows. What the hell? Goblins jump them. It's that done. It's that easy, guys. It is that easy. It's so stupid. Like, it is the easiest thing in the world. Okay, so now that was just one encounter. That's fine. What about an entire ass dungeon? All right, an entire ass dungeon? Yeah, we got you covered. Cragmaw Hideout. This dungeon has been done so many times. There's 50 different maps for this dungeon online. There's 3D maps for this dungeon. This is an incredible dungeon. There's a flood trap that doesn't really do anything unless you homebrew it, and then it's really cool. So, what does Pathfinder have that D&D doesn't have? Hazards, baby. So, what do you turn the water trap into? A hazard. That's what you turn it into. A hazard. So right away, you could just take it one thing at a time. The cave mouth. What's going on here? Nothing. There's nothing happening here. All right, that was easy. All right, what about here? Oh, there's Gerblins here. What are the Gerblins doing? They're using their perception. What do you need to do in any other game system? Put some guys there that are goblins that are appropriate for that game system's challenge rating system, and they're on guard. I mean, guys, it's really that simple. Where the complications come in is when you guys try to make it perfect. You can't make it perfect. Just make it the same, but make it good for the system that you are running.
Remember, you're converting it to the new system.
Yeah.
It's supposed to fit in the new system. So you're pretty much you have the skeletons for an adventure. You're making that adventure for the new system. So work in the new system's rules. You don't have to, if the numbers, you want to use the new system's numbers. You want to use the new system's encounter building. You want to use the new system's, all that stuff. So like, you're not tracing the adventure.
You're not tracing the adventure, exactly. Butler Log, one of the strongest Pathfinder kids on our Discord server, has already converted the entire adventure in 10 seconds. He says, Location 3, encounter, moderate plus hazard. Area 6, moderate encounter. Boss room, severe, but you can get help from the guy in Area 6. Absolutely. Absolutely. So as we go down here, you see the kennel here. The kennel says animal handling. Oh, what's that in Pathfinder? It's nature.
Nature.
Is a DC 15 an appropriate difficulty for a level 1 hero in Pathfinder 2e? It actually is. Are you not sure what it should be? Don't worry. Pathfinder 2e provides a chart that tells you the appropriate DC for the level of your characters. It's that easy.
What I mean, if we had to do this the opposite, this is probably a little bit harder.
Oh, well, okay. We are taking the easy route because Pathfinder is much more defined, you might say. It's much more defined.
Yeah.
But that's what we're doing. But I'll switch it around if you want. I'll crack open the Pathfinder starter kit.
This comes to the idea of knowing the two systems well.
Right, exactly. That was our first set of advice, is you do need to know both systems that you are converting from and that you're converting to well. If I wanted to take a 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons adventure and turn it into a Pathfinder 2 adventure, if I don't understand what's going on when I'm reading the Pathfinder 2, when I'm reading the 2nd edition D&D adventure, I'm not going to necessarily know what to do. But I will go open a 2nd edition adventure. Let's see. Gates of Firestorm Peak? Yeah, here we go.
I think when it's at that point, really what you're doing is you're taking the story and not necessarily the encounters.
Exactly. So here you go. Gates of Firestorm Peak. I have converted this to 5th edition. This is a fantastic 2.5 adventure. 2.5 came at the very end of the 2nd edition era. And it is a bonkers adventure. It is so flippin' cool. I don't want to spoil too much for you, but it's basically Dwegar in the Underdark, Eldritch Horror, Stargate. It's nuts. There's a lot of crazy stuff happening here. So,
is that where that bone star monster comes from?
Could be.
Like it's like a undead. Looks like a skeleton, but has really long fingernails, and it's supposed to be like Eldritch Shore star monster. That's what it's called.
Maybe. Okay. I think this is the origin of the deep spawn, which the deep spawn is a pretty sick monster. It's a monster that any monster it eats, it can make clones of that monster. So it's pretty sick. Anyways, as I'm reading through here, if I don't know what anything about second edition, right, I'm gonna see like Thaco, and I'm gonna be like, what does that mean? And I'm gonna see this other stuff, I'm not gonna know what that means, right? I'm gonna see all these terms I don't understand. That's gonna make converting it a lot harder. It's not gonna make it impossible, but it's gonna make it a lot harder if you don't know the system. Now, if I'm reading through, you know, a building is a building, a room is a room, a town is a town, a person is a person, right? But the Dwegar in second edition could cast enlarge or reduce at will. They could turn invisible at will, and they had a number of other special psychic powers that they could gain access to. This adventure is built around those racial abilities functioning the way they did in second edition. So if you tried to bring this over to 5th edition with the standard Dwegar, they have a limited number of times that they can perform a lot of those psychic abilities. You would have to say that the Dwegar in this adventure have an unlimited amount of psi points to activate their abilities or whatever. You'd have to kind of hand wave it to match it up here and make it work. So it's also kind of like, we've never understood challenge rating. Let me just put that out there. We've never understood challenge rating. There is a room in this dungeon that has 25 trolls in it. 25 trolls in one cave. So how would you convert that to modern day Dungeons and Dragons, right? So these are the kind of things, or how would you convert this to Pathfinder 2e? You have to understand the system, right? To understand the decisions that were made back then, to understand how to retain the feeling of those encounters, okay? The feeling of those encounters. That's the tricky part. That's why you do want to understand the system that you're converting from and the system that you're converting to very well, so that you can say, oh, I understand why they would have done this in second edition D&D, and I think I have a good idea of how to reproduce that in Pathfinder 2e.
And again, you're not tracing the adventure. You don't need to be one-to-one. So maybe in your system, that type of thing will be more of a skill challenge. In Pathfinder, in Pathfinder 2e, that might be like a infiltration subsystem thing, and then you can try and design that encounter to be that, where they need to try to sneak past all these 25 trolls instead of actually fighting them.
Exactly, or you use the swarm rules, or the mob
rules.
Or you
use the swarm,
swarm rules, mob rules. Like, whatever works for your system. Again, knowledge of the system will make the conversion easier.
And also, whatever works for your table too, because like in this case, like if your group's not going to want to fight like you're not the type of people who want to fight like that many people, or even in swarm mode or anything like that, then be willing to to make the adjustment. The conversion is yours in this case.
Think about the system. Cadenex, joking around, says convert it to Tales from the Loop. Well, one of the rules in Tales from the Loop is the kids never die. Well, one of the rules in second edition was go fuck yourself. So there's a lot of traps in this dungeon that just kill you. It's like you fail your saving throw and you're dead, or you fail your saving throw and now your character's lost forever. That's another reason that you have to read the whole adventure, because maybe I read through this adventure and I'm like, it's just not a good fit for Tales from the Loop, because Tales from the Loop, no one's supposed to die. So if I want to kind of keep the original feeling, am I compromising it too much to make it work with this particular game system? And that's another reason that you would want to make sure that you read the whole adventure. Is it worth converting? Is it a good fit for that new system, right? That's all stuff that you have to think about. You have to know your source material, you have to know your destination, and you have to put in the work to kind of read and decide, is this something that I want to do? This particular adventure, the Gates of Firestorm Peak, if you were to Google the 5e conversion, you could go pick up the 5e conversion for this for I think like $10 or something, and you don't have to do any of the work. So if you were like, I want to run this, I can't wait to convert it, and then you spend 15 minutes Googling, you're done because somebody else already converted it for you. Now you can work on the hard work of getting it set up for your VTT or getting all the miniatures and stuff ready for your in-person game. So that's the kind of stuff you need to, kind of keep in mind. Now, going back to Lost Mines of Phandelver from 5e to Pathfinder, you're probably picking up what we're putting down, that this is an exceedingly simple process of taking something from 5e D&D to a system like Pathfinder 2e. Pathfinder 2e is so rigid and so structured that, like, once you understand the rule set, you're gonna be able to very quickly identify how something should convert over or how something could convert over. Butler Log said that the fight against the boss in this dungeon is a severe encounter. They are not wrong. In the original adventure, most of the adventure is a severe encounter. But if you didn't want that, right? If you're like, yeah, I don't want the original, the goblin ambush to be a severe encounter, that's your chance when you're converting it over. That's your chance to be like, you know what? We'll just go with a moderate encounter here. We'll just go with a moderate encounter. That's fine. Like, you have that option as you're converting it over, and the luxury when you're converting it over of knowing your group, knowing your table, knowing your players, and knowing what's going to work better in the system that you are converting to. Again, you're not tracing, you are taking this and you're doing it again. How many times have they told the Batman story, right? And it's still the Batman story. You are telling the Lost Mines of Phandelver, and the genre, the medium that you're using to tell the story is being changed. But the story itself should be recognizable. That's how you know you've done it properly. Not if it's a perfect match, but if somebody was to talk to their friend and say, yeah, I played Lost Mines of Phandelver, but we did it in Pathfinder. And then they're like, oh my god, did you climb the wall and then like climb down only to realize that there was an owlbear there? And they're like, yes! It was crazy. There was an owlbear. I wasn't expecting it. And it like kicked the shit out of all of us. And like, yes, that happened to us too. They're in 5th edition. You're in Pathfinder 2. But you're having a same shared experience. Then you know that you did it right. It's not like they're going to say, yeah, there was like 7 goblins exactly. And 4 of them had short bows. And 3 of them had long swords. Do you remember that? They're not going to ask you that. That's not... Nobody gives a shit about that, okay? Like,
they're gonna be like, you remember the goblin ambush?
Yeah, there were goblins, right?
Oh,
that was
so-and-so got knocked down.
Yeah,
got crit and went straight.
Exactly. So don't stress any of that. Lost Mines of Phandelver would be kind of sick in Pathfinder 2e, to be honest. Absolutely, it would be fucking sick. It would be fucking cool as hell. So, as you are kind of moving through here, you look for things like, oh, here's a skill challenge. Here's an opportunity for infiltration. Here's an opportunity for a diplomacy. And again, you know the rules. You make those decisions as you go. You look at an encounter and you say, what is the core
goal.
Yeah, what is the core feeling? What is the goal of this encounter? And then you make it work in the system that you're converting to. Okay. So, what about something wacky? All right, like Odyssey of the Dragonlords. Okay, so Odyssey of the Dragonlords takes place in a pseudo-ancient Greek campaign setting. There's quite a bit of homebrew in that system. Most of the homebrew is bad and unbalanced. That's okay. It's 5e anyways. How do we capture those feelings and bring it over into Pathfinder 2e, for example? Well, this is where we said you should Google it, right? But what if I Google it and no one's converted this 600-page adventure to Pathfinder 2? Unlikely that they have and that they've published their work, right? So we're pretty sure there's no one that's done it. What you want to start looking for now is Greek monsters, right? So we're going to Google PF2e Greek monsters. All right, so let's see. PF2e Greek monsters, and bring it over here. So we have monsters, families. We've got all 2e monsters. How would you run Pathfinder in an ancient Greek setting? All right. And then somebody says here, you would really need to focus on the gods and how they interact with clerics and champions. Smart, right? And then it says, let's see. You would have to acknowledge the fact that alignment in ancient Greece is certainly different than the 9 alignments that would have been used in Pathfinder, but Pathfinder has since given up the alignment stuff. And then I do believe somebody did a Kickstarter for monsters that were inspired by Greek mythology. Let me see if I could find it.
I mean, one of the projects you might want to do is just go through the list of monsters that are inside the adventure.
Oh, that are in the adventure, true. Which they do have a section in the adventure that says all of the monsters that will be in this adventure.
Yeah, so you go through there, look at all the ones that are like, obviously unique, and like see if there's already one made in Pathfinder 2e. And if there isn't, there's maybe something that you can reskin into it.
Yep.
So there was somebody on the server was talking, mentioned about doing this, and they were like, oh man, I don't know what to do for goatlings. I was like, gremlins.
Gremlins, right. Gremlins for goatlings. That's pretty easy.
Just do gremlins. Yeah, just do gremlins.
Yeah. So if you look up, there's a ton of gremlins. They're all relatively low level. If you need a ton of them at higher levels, they got Gremlin Horde right here. But you can reskin any and all of these to be
different types of goatlings.
A goatling. Yeah, that's it. They just look like little goat men, but they have the stats and abilities of these different gremlins. That is the key to fast, simple conversion, is find monsters that do the things that you need and then just convert them. So like, what about at the very beginning of the adventure, you got to fight a giant boar. Okay, that's pretty easy. Like, you type in boar, and we scroll through here, and we got boars everywhere. Look at this. There's a level 6 blood boar. That sounds freaking dope. Unfortunately, this is a level 1 fight, so the most you could probably hope for is a level 3 boar. As you look through, they got a phantom boar here. That'd be kind of cool. And you could also, let's see. Yeah, I think we would probably just go with the Phantom Boar as like a starting place for the stat block. That could probably work. Yeah.
And one good thing too is that there are some like rules in Pathfinder that let you like modify monsters. Like, I want this boar to be a celestial boar, and it's like the rules of like, okay, if you're making this thing a celestial, this is what you do to it.
Right.
So you could probably pick like a regular
templates.
The level 2.
Yes.
Yeah, the templates.
Yeah, that's a smart move.
Yeah.
One of the things I did when I started building up my library of compendiums for Foundry, and I went and collected as many templates as possible. So if I want a monster to be cunning, I could just drag a cunning template onto it. Now it is 1 level higher than it was before, and it has some actions and abilities and stats that make it a smarter version of that monster. If I want a tougher version of the monster, I have a tough template that I could drag onto stuff. I want a zombie version of a monster, I have a zombie template that I could drop onto it. So yeah, like, if Phantom Boar as a CR2 not tough enough for your party, maybe add the Celestial template to it. Maybe just make it elite, and now it's basically a level 3.5, and it's going to be a nasty fight. It's going to be a nasty fight.
For all like the celestial things inside Odyssey of the Dragon Lords, they have a template called Divine Warden, and they have Primeval Cryptid. So those two I think will probably be the best, because like Cryptid is supposed to be like this animal has probably been living for a long time, or has like rumors about it, or it's special for some reason, but no one really knows. I mean, that's perfect for it. And they tell you all the stuff you need to do to modify that creature. and what abilities you should probably give it to do that. So you can look up
here you go.
Yeah.
Primeval Cryptid.
Yep.
All right, starting level 1 or 0. All right, here we go. If we turned that, if we turned Phantom Boar into a Primeval Cryptid, it gets 15 more hit points. Its rarity goes up by 1. Its size goes up by 1, exactly what we need. Its intelligence gets slightly better, and so on and so forth. It walks you through all the steps that you need to make them better. Yeah, and then this template right here could be used for every legendary animal, every legendary beast, every legendary thing that they fight in the campaign. It's that easy. So then they run into enemy hoplites, okay? So what is a hoplite, really? It's a dude with a spear and a shield, right? So any bad guy in the game that has a spear and a shield could be reskinned to be that enemy, okay? If you wanted to give them all a uniform ability that makes them all like members of the same order, you could come up with something like that, and then people will start to understand every time we fight dudes from this order, they're always going to have this one shared ability regardless of their stat block. So maybe they have an ability called Shield Wall, where as a one Pac-Man, they raise their shield, and then for every ally who is also raising their shield, the bonus increases like exponentially, or they get an extra reaction if their friend is also raising their shield. Something that defines that organization, but allows you to continue stealing stat blocks over and over and over again, but then they still feel like they're part of that same custom thing for that game. So,
one thing to help you, especially if you're doing this in Pathfinder, is look at the families of monsters, because they'll tell you what's common between all of them. Like looking at what you call it, the guard family. They have guard, they have captain of the guard, they have executioner, they have jailer, they have watch officer, they have archer sentry. But then they tell you like, okay, what if that guard's an officer? And then they say, okay, if they are an officer, for this family, give them this, or give them this, or give them this, or give them this. If you look up the guard, like the guard captain.
I was looking at hobgoblins, but yeah.
Oh yeah, man. You can go to hobgoblins for Red Hand.
But here, if we look up guard, it says all monsters in officer, and then it says archer, sentry, barrister, captain of the guard, executioner, regular guard, jailer, watch officer. And so it says like these would all be very similar to each other. So we could go through, take all of these, and just put Sidonite at the beginning. And now they're all working for the evil guy Sidon. It's that easy. It's that easy. So what about a completely unique monster? Like something that you just aren't expecting at all. Like I can't imagine a monster that there isn't a stat block in Pathfinder 2 that you could just convert over. Like I can't for the life of me imagine that there's any monster stat block that could not just be converted to cover anything that you need, from Odyssey to Pathfinder 2e.
Trying to think of a unique monster that we ran into. That's the iron boar that shoots poison.
Okay.
Do they have that in there?
All right, the
Gorgon.
Right? Gorgon. They used to. I mean, like they ripped everything off. There.
Oh yeah, they do. They have it.
Right
It's there. Oof, level 8. Oh my goodness.
Now, here's a great one, right? Because the first Gorgon you run into, you guys are like level 5, 4?
Yeah.
Like 4 or 5?
Like that.
All right, and now we've got a level 8. Is that the only stat block we have for Gorgon? Right? Is that the only stat block? So, this is where you would have to go in and decide, I want to have the adventure be similar. I do want the adventure to be similar. So what am I going to do to keep this same monster at the same place in the game, because there is a big disparity in how strong a Pathfinder 2e Gorgon is and how strong a 5th edition Gorgon is. So this is where you could use the weak template, but that's only going to drop it down to be about a 6.5 or a 7. So now they're level 5, and now it's level 6.5. That is much more manageable. That is much more manageable.
Bad, yeah.
Yep.
You know, you might want to adjust the encounter that comes with it, you know, for the increase in that monster.
Yeah, so Butler Log says, or you say that they are rusty, okay? So how would you convince it to do that? Well, again, templates. In my foundry, I have negative templates. I can make a monster clumsy. I can make a monster weak. I can make a monster cowardly. There are ways that I can just mechanically drag a template onto a monster to further de-level that monster. And these are things that you can pick up for your game. If you want to do it manually, that's fine too. You could just go in and lower all of its stuff by a certain amount. You could give it a permanent status effect. It's rusty, so it's permanently slowed. So every round, it's going to have -1 to its action economy. Now it's very manageable. You could also put things in the environment. So maybe in the fight against the Gorgon, you put some pillars in there that you can hide behind, and then the monster can't get at you easily. Maybe the monster's partially blind, so you can kind of impact the encounter that way too.
Everybody's concealed to it.
Right, everyone's concealed. It's got cataracts. You know what I'm saying? There are ways that just throw a permanent status effect on there. Now you're bringing that monster even more into the area it needs to be for that part of the adventure. And that is okay. That is an okay way to convert it over and handle it. Because at the end of the day, what you're trying to grab is they're about to go into a labyrinth with a Minotaur boss. And so they have this thematic, like, cow monster up front to kind of keep that theme going. And the Iron Bull has some, imagery from Greek myth as well. So yeah, it works out pretty good. So I think that, yeah, like a weird adventure like Odyssey of the Dragon Lords is going to be a harder conversion than a vanilla adventure, but I don't think it's going to be impossible. It will take a bit more knowledge of the monster manuals. For sure. And that's where you can always find friends who are, into the game as well that aren't your players, and you can be like, hey, do you know a Pathfinder monster that's kind of like this? Like, do you know a monster like that? And people will probably be like, oh yeah, you need this thing over here, it's pretty much the same as that. And now you go and you grab that monster and you do a little conversion, and you're good to go.
Put a fresh coat of paint on, fresh coat of Odyssey of the Dragon Lord paint on it.
Another thing you can do is sometimes you just abandon a particular thing altogether because it's just too hard to convert, or it would just be too much work to convert. And I'm gonna forgive you right now. You might not be able to forgive yourself, but like, unless it's like the most important and iconic part of the chapter, or like the most important or iconic part of the entire adventure, you're not failing at the conversion if you were like, I just couldn't find any pterodactyl men. Like, there were supposed to be pterodactyl men here. I couldn't find any pterodactyl men, and I didn't want to make up any pterodactyl men, so I just made them bird people. First of all, you could have just said the bird people were pterodactyl people, and you would have been fine. Secondly, if the vibe of the encounter was dealing with flying enemies, like, sentient human flying enemies, bird, pterodactyl, it's fine. It's fine. You know what I mean? Like, you really do take it on like a case-by-case basis. Try to preserve the feeling of the encounter, the theme of the encounter, the theme of the adventure, but never hold yourself to that standard of like one-to-one conversion. Never, ever, ever. Yeah. Let's see. What else? I mean, I feel like we're pretty much just got to spell it out there.
I guess in terms of Odyssey Dragon Lords, and you're converting it. Okay, my players want to use the subclasses that are part of the adventure, part that they saw in the thing.
That's a good one. One. Okay, so that's where things do get a little bit trickier.
That gets hard. Yeah.
That's where it is going to get harder. You have a couple of options. The first one is just to help them find an equivalent in the system that you're switching to that keeps the flavor that their character had. So a Herculean barbarian from Odyssey, the big thing that they can do that a normal barbarian can't is they can grapple with a bonus action, and while they are grappling a target, they can use a two-handed weapon one-handed. Well, good news. There's already shit that lets you do that in Pathfinder. In fact, anybody could probably take those feats in archetypes to make that happen. What else can the Herculean barbarian do that a normal barbarian can't do? They get a ability where as the fight goes on, the longer the fight goes on, the more damage they deal. They have like a building rage. Like their rage gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't know enough about all of the Pathfinder 2 classes to know if there is a high-level barbarian feature similar to that. But like, I feel like there's enough build options that you could create something very similar to that without needing to do a homebrew conversion of that subclass into that system. I mean, that's kind of my take on it.
I mean, honestly, the easiest thing you do is just make sure you give them free archetype and just say, hey,
yeah, if they can't,
the door's pretty wide open for you to try and make this Greek theme as much as you want.
Yeah, like for example, the Amazon Ranger subclass. There's nothing else like it in 5e.
Yeah, and
a lot of people are like, it's amazing because it feels so different than any other ranger, and I love it and it's great. There's a monk subclass that uses a shield, and like no other monk uses a shield. Like, oh my god, using a shield, that's crazy. These are things that with free archetype in Pathfinder 2, you could just build this character anyways. Like, you don't need a special subclass to do this. You could just build these things. You want to have a robot bird, you could have one at like level 1. Like, there's feats that you could take to have a robot bird. So like, you have to, and like we say all the time, it's about communication and about managing expectations at that point. You say, hey, you guys really want to play this adventure in this system? Well, this is how we would handle X, Y, and Z. And if they're like, no, that's not what I want it to be like this and like this. And you can be like, well, and that's when you have to ask yourself, are you willing to put in the effort to convert homebrew? Or are you going to be firm and say, you have free archetype, I will try to help you recreate like what you could have had here over here, but I'm not going to build you something from scratch.
So I was just looking it up right now.
Yeah.
If you do Fury Instinct Barbarian, its level 7 thing is the increasing rage. Like their rage thing increases.
There we go.
Yeah.
And then Titan Grappler. Yeah, for handling that. And there you go. You've rebuilt it. You're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the Odyssean Rogue? It's a smart rogue. There's no such thing as a smart rogue in Dungeons & Dragons, except for like the Mastermind and all the other ones. Pathfinder literally has an intelligence rogue. Done. That was easy. All right, next thing. And so on and so forth, guys. Like, it's really not that big a deal. Once again, you're not trying to recreate scene for scene, play by play, stat block by stat block. You're trying to get the vibes of the adventure.
And I'm gonna look directly in the camera for this one. So if you're getting pressured by your players to switch to Pathfinder because they want to do Pathfinder for this Odyssey of Dragonverse campaign, that's the price they have to pay.
Yeah, you have to have a limit. You have to have a limit. You can't be sitting here spending your whole life trying to convert over this broken stuff into another system. All right, so I said we would try to convert the beginner box over to D&D 5th edition. Okay, so let me see if I have the PDF for that. Hold on. Pathfinder. Is it called just beginner box?
Yeah. Or Little Trouble Under Otari or something like that.
Oh, okay. Otari.pdf. Maybe this one's it. Let me see. Abomination Vaults Player's Guide. No, definitely not that. I have the adventure back here on the shelf. Hold on. Sorry, Kermit. All right.
They also like to name their PDFs and like just the
serial numbers?
Serial code number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Beginner's Heroes Book. This is such a nice box set, by the way.
I've been running it for a group of I've never played TTRPGs in ever group at work. They've been enjoying it.
Alrighty. So here's the thing. This is a 2-level dungeon underneath a town. So you got Dungeon Town Otari. You got a dungeon underneath the town. The cute halfling proprietor says, "Please go find out what's eating the rats in my cellar or some shit." I don't know. So you're like,
stealing a fish.
Stealing your fish. There we go. So you go downstairs expecting to find rats, but there's kobolds.
After the rats.
Now, I'm gonna tell you right now, much as goblins are overtooled in 5e because they are dex-based monsters, kobolds are also dex-based monsters with pack tactics. So, like, you are sending them to their deaths if it's a 5th edition adventure. So just keep that in mind. But, unlike Pathfinder 2 kobolds that have a decent amount of health, kobolds in 5e, they pretty much die to, like, 1 hit. So, there is that saving grace. I would not do a direct conversion of, like, there's 4 kobolds here, I'm going to have 4 kobolds in my 5e game. 5e is so badly designed and so unbalanced that what I would do is use the kobold reserves method.
Yeah.
So that's just 5e, baby. That's just 5e.
Mm-hmm.
So until you get a sense for how your player character's builds can hold up in actual play, because nothing is balanced and everything is a mess, you sprinkle kobolds in. And then when you're like, oh, they can handle 3 kobolds, no problem. Now there's 5 kobolds. Okay, they can handle 5 kobolds, no problem. Now there's going to be 2 waves of 4 kobolds, and then you kind of get a feel for it. That is how messy 5e is, and if you're running 5e properly, it is very much like cooking without a recipe book. You really are seasoning to taste when you run 5e. So all I would do is I would have this map, and I would be like, in this encounter, kobolds. The end. All right, next.
Maybe start off there with, like, if you have, a group of 5, maybe like 3 kobolds.
Right. Definitely get a feel for it, because 1 critical hit from a kobold, which they have advantage because pack tactics, that could be the end of that character. So just gonna keep that in mind. There's an encounter that's like, what is it? Cinder rats. Everybody hates the cinder rat encounter. These rats, they got smoke coming off of them. They're hard to see. It's hard to hit them. They got smoke. Well, I got news for you. There's no actual concealment shit in 5e that matters. So, how are we going to convert this monster over? This monster, the cinder rat, it has this concealment thing. Here's the thing. You just
have a fog cloud around it.
It's got displacement. That's what it's got. Okay? You just give it displacement off a displacer beast. So you've got giant rats, and the giant rats have smoke coming off of them. It makes disadvantage to attacks until you land a hit, and then the creature doesn't have that displacement anymore until the start of its next turn, when it poops out more smoke and gets it going. Bam, done. We converted the cinder rat over. You can see already it is a lot harder to convert from Pathfinder 2e over to D&D and feel confident about your work. It's just a different experience. There's a section here.
There's a
skeletons.
Yeah,
that's an easy one. Yeah.
So there's that one. So that's monsters. There's another one where there's like a sort of a trap, like not a trap, like a half boot, like a boon trap. That you go there and you have to pass a check, and if you pass it, you get a bonus, or you fail it, you get sick. You get sickened, I think, if you fail, and if you pass, you get what is it? You get something. get some benefit.
Mhm.
And there's like a DC for a fortitude save you have to do there. Well, I mean, if you know the two systems, you know fortitude is probably closest to the Constitution save, and then you got to know your numbers. So, you know, if it's like a level, you know, if it's like a 15 DC, that's standard for level 1 in Pathfinder. So, I guess, you know, kind of fill out your group. I don't know what be standard for level 1 in
Bro,
in
there's
D&D.
there's no rhyme or reason to it. Like I'll
probably do 14.
Yeah, I've seen high level adventures where they ask for like a DC
12.
DC 12. You're like, everyone's level 10, and they're asking for like a DC 12 saving throw.
And then that one wizard, you know, rolls a 2, and
he still
he
messes up.
He trips over and falls. You know,
it's just a mess. It's just a mess.
Yeah.
A rule of thumb is their proficiency bonus, right? Keep track of their proficiency bonus. If you want the DC
plus 10.
Yeah, if you want the DC to be average for their level, it's their proficiency bonus plus 10. If you want it to be difficult, then you add plus 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 to it. Because now you're thinking about their stat bonuses, right? So if something's very, very hard to do, it should be like the hardest they could do and still pass. If it's a level 5 or higher, right? So they have at level 5, your proficiency bonus is what, plus 2 or plus 3? Can't remember. I think it's plus 2.
3, I think.
3?
At 5.
Maybe?
Yeah, I think 5 is when it turns to 3.
All right, so at level 5, you get a plus 3. So that means every DC, in my opinion, should be about 13 at level 5. If you want it to be like the hardest thing ever for level 5, make it 18. That implies that they have a 20 dexterity, you know, plus 5, and then the 13 base. So you're saying that this is so hard that only the most dexterous person at level 5 would be able to pass it. So now it's at DC 18. If you're like, it's tough, it's a tough one, okay, plus 3. So it's a DC 16 at level 15 to do that. There is no, like, guide as far as I can tell. There's a DM's guide, but I can't for the life of me remember there being a recommended DC table.
They do. What they say is just that it's 10 is easy, 15 is medium,
oh my God,
20 is hard, 25 is, you know, they do that.
The rule of 5s. Yeah, that works great. Yeah. Let's see. Then there's the Encounter 5, Forgotten Crypts. They got skeletons, and they got zombies. Well, I'm here to tell you, skeletons and zombies in Pathfinder 2, a lot easier to handle at low levels than in Dungeons & Dragons. In Dungeons & Dragons, zombies could potentially never die if the dice rolls are bad, and skeletons have nothing special about them because they don't have vulnerability to bludgeoning or any of the cool stuff that you expect from skeletons. They're pretty vanilla, and they are another dex-based monster. So at low levels, those skeletons are, yeah, they're gonna be tough. Like, the game is never more exciting and difficult than it is in the first 5 levels. 5th edition D&D peaks at level 7 because you worked hard to get to level 5. Now you're level 5 and you're really strong, and then you finish the campaign at level 7 before they get any of the spells that would break the game. High five, the best 5th edition D&D you could have. Anyways, you're probably seeing that it is harder to convert some systems into others. At the same time, 5e is such a mess and it's so loose that you could pretty much do anything you want and it's going to be okay. So if I'm looking through here and I'm like, this encounter is kobolds, this encounter is hard to hit mice, this encounter is undead, it's pretty easy to kind of feed that stuff in. Going with the make a saving throw or get cursed or get blessed, essentially, by, you know, get a boon or get a bane. It can be as simple as they're under the effects of a bless spell for the next hour. They're under the effects of a bane spell for the next hour. Look for mechanical effects that already exist before you go inventing your own. That's another good one to keep track of. And that again goes with understanding the system well. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know what else there is to say. It really,
I mean,
yeah.
The big thing here is that regardless of whether you're doing, it's going to be work. Like there's going to be work that you're going to have to do to do this.
So much work.
You can't come to this like thing thinking that we're going to tell you how to do it and not have any work to do. It's converting no matter what. It's going to be a lot of work.
So much work.
And there's going to be a lot of time. You got to read the adventure. Look at each encounter, do the work to convert it, and the converting itself could be easy, but it doesn't mean it's less work. It's still work.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind, that if you ever decide to convert anything, if you get pressure into converting something by your player, they need to know you if you agree to this, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's not hard, but it's a lot of work.
And also just you will eventually find an adventure that you fall in love with. You just love this adventure. Matt Colville was talking about Red Handed Doom, and god damn it, you want to run Red Handed Doom, but you're tired of Dungeons and Dragons. You want it to be in Pathfinder 2e. Well, if you really love it that much, put in the work and make it something special. But I would also say Google it first to make sure no one else has already done it for you, because that, again, there are so many people in the hobby right now. If it's a cool enough adventure, if it's a popular enough adventure, you might be able to find a conversion guide already. I would be remiss to end this topic without bringing up AI assistance. You could get a GPT and you could explain to it what you're trying to do. You could say you need to go get a great understanding of 5th edition D&D and a great understanding of Pathfinder 2, or you need to get a great understanding of Changeling the Dreaming, and you need to get a great understanding of Tales from the Loop, or whatever the two systems are that you're trying to convert. And then you could say, okay, here's this first encounter. How do you recommend I convert it over for a party of X level adventurers? And then it could help you. It could give you that framework. It could say, well, there isn't a monster equivalent in this system that matches up with this, but maybe try this monster. And so there are tools that can kind of help you with this process as well. So don't sleep on that. Like, there are ways that you can kind of streamline the process, help yourself out without having to go find a community, wait for replies, wait for people to kind of get back to you. Like, you could have this sort of AI assistant and just feed it the information that you need it to help you with, and then you have that springboard. Do not trust an AI assistant to convert the adventure for you. For the love of God, don't just say, read this PDF and convert it into a Pathfinder 2 adventure for me. It's not going to do a good job. I'm telling you right now. It's going to be a mess. Everything that you think AI is going to just do for you, it's not going to do a good job. So ask it for help, see what it comes up with, and then take it with a grain of salt. But now you at least have this second person that's kind of working through the project with you, and it can help you get unstuck when you get in a bind where you're like, I just don't know what else I could do for this. You could even ask the AI, I've got a monster that does this, this, and this. Is there a Pathfinder 2 equivalent? And it'll say, well, there's this monster over here. Between Battle Zoo and the 4 bestiaries, there's a lot of monsters that you don't know about. So having that information, fed into an AI could streamline the conversion process. But again, it needs that human touch. It needs you in there to make those decisions, to guide the process. Don't trust it to do all the work for you. So I did want to throw that in at the end.
Yep.
All right, and that's it. We're at time. I feel like we kind of covered the most important bits here.
Yeah.
I will say this: I love converting adventures. If I had
it's a really good way to read the adventure again to get yourself, because by you converting it, you become way more familiar with the adventure because you're the one who made the decisions on this encounter in the first place.
Oh, absolutely.
And so when you're running it, I feel like you have less to look up because you remember that you made the decision for this to happen in the first place.
One of the things I'm encountering with Outlaws is it's so linear, it's so well built in Foundry. It's so well written and organized that like I'm a little lazy sometimes, you know? Like I'll get to an adventure part of the adventure path where I maybe read it once, you know, and then I moved on because I was like, oh yeah, it's all here, it's all taken care of. And then by the time I get back to it when I'm running the game, I don't actually remember everything because I just read it that one time. Whereas other adventures where I had to put in a shitload of work converting it and setting it up myself and fixing it and repairing it and doing all that, I knew that content because I was hands-on that content. So there is definitely a nice benefit to doing a conversion of an adventure because it is in a way your adventure now, right?
Yeah,
it's your adventure now, and I think that's fantastic. Butler Lug says, I honestly think running PF2 APs has made me a worse GM. Agreed. Big agree. I don't know. I don't know the quality, but I know the experience. It has made me very lazy. It has made me very lazy compared to what I used to do. So yeah, I get that. Okay. Well, that's it for us. We've got normal schedule this weekend. No Dragonbane on Sunday. I'm still recovering from illness, and I just need some time to rest this weekend. Is there any news? Anything we need to drop? Any announcements before we adjourn?
No, nothing here. I wanna. I'm gonna start working on. Now that the field test has gone through, my next project is the mission kit for CyberPunk. But I have to rebuild everything for that adventure, so it's gonna take a long time. So we'll see how when it's ready, then I'll post the listing out there. Again, if anybody's interested in trying the Starfinder field test again, let me know. I'll be down to Reddit's already set up, and I have the pre-gen characters in there, and pre-gen characters. Now that I ran it one time, I can make some adjustments to those pre-gens so they make it a little bit more better for the encounter.
Fair.
So if people are interested, let me know.
And if you're interested but not super interested, the VOD of that playtest is up on the YouTube, so you could just watch it and see how you feel about it. So, all right. Well, I hope everybody has a good night and a good weekend, and we'll see you guys next time.
All righty, take care.